What's up, fungal associates? Welcome to Completely Arbortrary, the podcast about trees and other related topics. I am one of your hosts, and I'm sitting here with the other host, host number Casey Clapp. Hello, Casey.
Alex, good evening, good afternoon.
Good and good night.
Thank you. I didn't know if you knew what I was going to say next.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I really am. We got a lot done today. I'm feeling really stoked about it.
Yeah, you and I had a nice little work meeting before this, and
it's what gets us energized to do the podcast is business meetings.
Yes, energized. Yeah. That's right.
That's the word you're looking for.
Work energizes me.
It does. It does. I can see you're glowing right now with productivity.
I think we did just enough work before this to wear me out.
Oh, yeah. So actually, it's done the opposite. You're going to fall asleep halfway through.
Potentially. You know, here's something I wish I could. I did not sleep last night.
Ooh, I'm sorry. I would love the idea of me talking and yeah, anyway, so the tree. Alex, are you sleeping?
Right.
You just hear snores.
A grave insult.
Yeah, but it would be a grave insult, but it'd also be kind of funny. I would honestly just keep going without you, but act like you're listening the whole time.
Oh, sure.
But make sure that everyone else knew that. They would just every now and then remember, oh wait, yeah, Alex is sleeping this whole time.
You hear a snore every once in a while.
I think it would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, Casey, we're not here to talk about sleeping.
I'm sorry you didn't sleep very well, but you're going to be energized. I'm going to keep you awake this time.
We're going to do our best. Mm-hmm. I mean, I literally will stay awake. Yes.
Yeah, which is very fair. Thank you. I'm glad that you will.
Yeah. We're here to talk about Casey.
Yeah.
I almost slipped here.
You almost did. I saw that.
This is our third of three.
Yes.
Trees.
Thank you. It is not quite considered maybe a tree, but if you just go by the name of it,
right,
it is in fact a tree by that extremely local definition.
Yes, this tree can be found where the streets have no name.
Exactly.
It is, after all, the Joshua tree. Now, it's not a tree.
No, it's not.
It's a yucca?
It's a yucca, but it could be a tree if you consider it growing as a tree, then yes.
Sure, it's tree-like.
Yes, and it literally is the Joshua tree.
Well, today we're talking about the Yucca brevifolia.
We sure are.
A.k.a. the Joshua tree.
The beautiful Joshua tree.
Let's imagine as we do every episode. Can I tell you something funny?
Yeah.
It's like a dumb little kid brain thing. Uh-huh. When I was a kid, and until about 6 months ago.
I was going to say, how long did that last?
I actually didn't know Joshua tree was a species of tree. I thought it was a specific tree. I thought it was a specimen of this tree.
I see.
I thought the Joshua tree was the tree on the jacket of the U2 album.
Oh, I see. Kind of like
Joshua
the General Sherman tree.
Yes, I thought it was named the Joshua tree.
I see.
Yeah. Let's imagine that you and I are in, how about this, Joshua Tree National Park.
Easy.
And we come across some Joshua trees. Casey, let's ID this yucca.
Well, that sounds like a great idea. So it is a yucca. I think that has now gone without saying. It's a monocot. We should put that out there first and foremost.
First yawn of the day. I'm so sorry.
First yawn of the day.
I'm just going to keep track of it.
There will be many. Yeah, let's just etch it into the wall or something.
Yeah.
So a Joshua tree is a yucca. Yuccas are these desert plants that really survive very well in arid conditions.
Okay.
And they grow in everywhere. They're in the agave family as well. Oh. So agave, of course, famous for making tequila and other Mexican drinks, especially down in the southern area in Oaxaca and that kind of area.
Agave is the one that the growth kind of looks like a big asparagus stalk.
Yeah, they are in the asparagales. So they're
Are
family.
You for real?
Yeah. They're the asparagales, or the asparagus clan of everything. That's actually huge. So yeah, you pin that perfectly. Well, yeah, it's the family, it's the order, and they're in Agavidae, which is the subfamily, and they're in the genus Yucca.
Okay.
Yuccas are really cool because they have these long leaves that are very sharp and needle-like at the very end.
Yeah.
But they kind of get a little bit wider. They're very leathery and strappy. A lot of these plants were used to make baskets and sandals and things like that because their leaves are so tough.
Wait for Crowson's homegrown trivia.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll take that back.
Don't step on my yucca sandaled toes.
I won't. I'm sorry. So these, they're really tough. And of course, they have to be tough because they're living in these desert, arid conditions. Because of that, they are not easily broken. They're not easily just chopped off. You have to really work for them. I mean, you can take like scissors, I suppose, but that's kind of the level you have to go. You can rip an oak leaf in half with your fingers.
Right. You need like a machete to bash this thing down.
You really got to go for it. And so Yucca brevifolia, they have these long needles, I keep saying needles, Alex, because they are like really long and skinny, but they are not needles, of course. They are leaves. As a monocot, they have parallel veins up the entire length of their leaves.
Okay.
They're dark green, and they are growing on the end of these really tufted, interesting, branched yucca stems. Now, most yuccas will stay pretty small, and they will flower multiple times. A lot of people see these, and they're these big, long panicles of flowers that come up on these gigantic, tall stalks, and they kind of just send these flowers out. They kind of hang down. So it's kind of like, I imagine like a big poofy thing on a stick. Like you're walking down a parade, and you have like this kind of like thing you're holding that has like jingle jangles on it.
I imagine the Roman centurion at the front of the rank with the flag and all the jingly jangles.
Yeah, exactly. Now imagine if that's like 3D, kind of all in circles.
Hell yeah.
Really beautiful, of course, all these things. So they're wildly planted as ornamentals just all over the place because they have these really beautiful flowers. Now the yucca will have these same kind of flowers, and it'll grow into its flowers will end up growing into these really kind of intense fruit. They're kind of these hard kind of pods with seeds on the inside.
Yeah.
And every time they flower, just the same as the dragon blood tree, that tip ends up becoming the flower and then ends up no longer being able to grow the rest of the vegetation. So then two shoots from the side will come out, and then those will continue to grow and become now two new stems. Does that make sense?
Does this same thing happen with cactus?
Not exactly. Cactus, there's some cactus that just grow in very, very specific ways where they just have that one little like barrel, and that barrel kind of just grows taller.
Right.
But I think that those have a growing point at the tip and will continually get bigger from the top where they don't grow upwards, kind of like what grass does, which is a monocot. Cactus are not monocots, I don't believe.
What are cactus?
I think they're dicots.
Oh, are they considered trees?
No, not trees, but they're dicots and monocots are all plants mostly.
Right.
So, but honestly, I don't know. I haven't done a lot of research into it, so I don't want to answer too many. I don't want to fall on that 30% of Casey's just making shit up now.
We gotta ration that out.
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
this is an hour-long episode.
Back. But no, it's not quite the same. In like the saguaro cactus, those will branch at a certain point. I think they have to be like 30 or 40 or 50 years old before they just like send out this one random branch on the side. They're very strange plants. I don't really understand them a lot.
Maybe we should talk about them someday.
Hey, I think we should. Yeah, so the yucca are really interesting in that they kind of had that similar growth pattern, like I said, to the dragon blood tree, where they grow up and then that tip will fruit, which is the same thing that agave do. But agave, they just have this big like basal rosette of leaves coming out. Then when they send up their shoot, that is a terminal bunch of flowers. Once it flowers, the agave die, the whole thing.
Oh.
They
one and done, huh?
Exactly. Now they sometimes send out little shoots from their roots and then like have these little babies that kind of start growing up. And then those babies will also sometimes get seeded out, and you'll have new little babies come up from seed. However, that initial plant, whatever that is, will kick the bucket, one and done.
So yuccas do this as well?
Yeah, yuccas do this, except their growing tip dies, but they've developed the ability to have two shoots on the side or one or more shoots on the side.
This is smart.
Continue growth, exactly. And that's what makes them and the dragon blood tree uniquely tree-like when they are in fact a kind of plant that normally would stay low, whose ancestors wouldn't be doing that.
That's a good survival technique too.
Yeah, right? It really is. Because like our first palm that we did, that has the same thing where it just has one growing tip.
Yeah.
Once that tip dies, if you go and cut it off, then as soon as the rest of those leaves die, the whole thing's done.
Right.
So it is a unique adaptation that these trees have gotten so that they can now go whoop and then continue living even though now they have flowered.
It's almost like amphibious in a way, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like growing extra, if you chop, I was going to say if you chop off, we don't have to go that dark. If a lizard loses its tail, doesn't it grow it back in a way?
I think kind of, but I think it would be more applicable if it was like a Hydra lizard where you cut off the tail and then
2 more tails grow.
Exactly. Okay. That I think would sell that metaphor perfectly.
Okay. Well, it's like a Hydra.
It is. It's like a Hydra. Yeah. The funny thing is, so I'm doing some research on this, and someone noted if you see one tall yucca or one tall Joshua tree that has no branches, that one has not flowered yet because it has to flower for that terminal bud to die or to no longer be growing vegetatively. Then it would have to shoot out on the side.
Interesting. Okay. How often do they flower?
I don't really know. I think it happens fairly frequently, but it usually has to do with some interesting environmental factors. One, they have to have a very cold winter. Oh. That cold winter stimulates the plant to put on flowers the next year. But they also have to have enough water because they live, of course, in a desert. If there's not enough water to produce the flowers and then the subsequent fruit and the seeds inside of that, then the plants aren't going to live. So they're like, this isn't a good time. I can't do it.
I see.
So it's between those two things, which usually should be pretty consistent the entire year, or rather from year to year.
Question.
Alex, go.
Usually when we're IDing these trees we talk about, I say, okay, what about the leaves? Okay, what about the bark? Okay, what about the, This thing's a little different. It's a tree.
Yes.
Does the Joshua tree, the Joshua tree.
Yeah, the Joshua grass.
The Joshua grass. Does it have anything that you could equate to or call confidently bark? Or is it like a palm that's just like it's fibrous all the way through?
Well, it's like a palm. It's just fibrous all the way through.
Okay.
So I don't think it has a very strict sense of what it is. They're all just these intense vascular bundles.
Yeah.
But on the outside, those vascular bundles are really fibrous and rough. And they can kind of get a little bit of a woodiness to them, but it's the same woodiness as palms, where it looks like a outer sheath kind of thing. But that outer sheath is made up of the same stuff as all the inner sheath. It just may not have the roughened and weathered sort of look and appearance because it is inside rather than outside.
I got you.
Yeah, but it doesn't have bark.
So it's not really bark.
It's not really bark, yeah. And that's kind of the big thing that sets the dicots and the monocot trees apart, is the bark is actually produced every single year in a whole separate zone in the cambium layer of a tree. And the bark ends up becoming crushed phloem tissue that then comes out and becomes corky and woody and then just keep pushed out and pushed out and pushed out. So you end up getting an actual layer developed from the cork cambium, as opposed to this, it's just the outer side of a bunch of cells, a bunch of these long vessels all just jammed in together.
Do you think it would be safe to call this meow?
What? Meow? You say, I don't get it.
Instead of bark.
Oh my God, Alec. You're kidding. Oh, I don't want to even dignify that. Oh my God. Where do you come up with this? You're crying now. You're so proud of yourself.
I'm not crying.
Yeah, you are. You laughed so much.
I think I'm crying of joy.
That went so far over my head that if it was a snake, it would have bit me.
Oh, yeah. It's a dry wit. What do you call it? What's the opposite of going over your head? Usually if something is too smart, it goes over your head, but this was so dumb, it went under your legs.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's a wall that smashed into my face, but I didn't even see it coming.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know it was there. Maybe we
like
can
a baseball that rolls through your legs.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what it is.
Couldn't catch it with your glove.
It's like, it was a through ball. It really was.
Yeah, we can move on if we want.
No, I like this. This is good.
Should we?
Yeah. And honestly, there's so many people who I think would be like, yes, absolutely. Trees have bark. This is a big thing between the monocots and the dicots.
Yeah.
Trees have bark. Non-trees have meow.
Yeah.
Easy.
They're going to say that to a coworker, and their coworker is going to have the same reaction you did.
Yeah, and then they're going to get punched in the face and sent home.
I'd like to talk to you about your job performance.
It has been off the charts. Thank you for bringing humor into this workplace.
How do you do it? Well, I listen to a podcast Completely arbitrary.
Highly recommend it.
My therapist asked me what my podcast was called today.
Yeah, oh, yeah?
And it's so embarrassing. Anytime I have to say it, I just can't stand communicating it out
Oh my
loud.
God, I love it. Yesterday I went to a conference or a little seminar, and I got to tell people that. But I used the timing. I was like, it's called Completely Arbortrary. Get it? And then everyone was kind of like, ah, and then they all giggled and they all
They
laughed.
liked it?
Yeah. Given they were all arborists, so maybe they're a little bit predisposed to that kind of thing, but
I don't think I've ever said it out loud to somebody else, like telling them for the first time without having some sort of like shoulder reaction where
to
I
your
sort of
own creation.
cringe to myself.
What does that say about what we've done here?
Oh, well. Casey, how about some Crowson's homegrown trivia?
Hey, let's get into it, Alex. While you do that, I'm going to plug in my computer whose death is imminent.
Oh, my gosh. A real ticking clock element. I love it. Okay, Case.
Faster, Alex.
Well, I also want to talk with you about these things.
All right, that's fair.
Casey is getting his cable. He's reaching behind my couch.
I can do it.
He has plugged in his computer. He's about to plug it into the computer end. Did you make it in time?
We did it.
Wow.
Holy heck.
All right, Case.
All right, what do we got?
Some homegrown trivia. So, the Joshua tree, it has a name in Spanish that I adore.
Ooh, what is it?
It is Izote de Desierto,
Ooh.
which translates to desert dagger.
Desert. Ooh, that is good.
Isn't that fantastic?
Dagger of the desert.
Yeah.
I have to say, I like how in Spanish and other languages like it, they reverse things. They don't say it's always like this of that.
Yes.
I love that. I think it's so good.
I like it too. It's very romantic in a way.
It is, which is why they call them romantic languages. From Rome.
Etymologically, there is this common idea that Mormon settlers named the Joshua tree.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. However, there really is no like even the article I read said this. There is no actual proof.
Yeah, which is I read that as well because that was my understanding. I've told that to many people.
It's just like folk legend, I guess.
Yeah, which is so funny. Everyone's. Do you think they just like took credit and like, sure, yeah, we named it. Whatever.
Write it in the book.
Yeah, right in the
Joseph Smith
Book of Mormon.
Okay. Made a little footnote.
Yeah, footnote. By the way, those trees, that's us.
Did Joseph Smith write the Book of Mormon? I don't even know.
I don't remember. I think there's another guy. Technically, no. I think the Book of Mormon. No, it was those plates. There's like golden plates that were found or something.
Oh, yes. There
Yeah.
were golden plates that were found.
Yeah, we shouldn't get into it.
Okay, so the common idea is that the Mormon settlers named this tree Joshua tree because it reminded them of a Bible story in which Joshua, the Old Testament prophet,
Yep.
was praying to the Lord our God.
Had his hands up.
I have the quote from the Bible here.
Yeah,
Casey.
give it to us.
And the Lord, all caps, said unto Joshua, stretch out the spear that is in thy hand toward I, for I will give it into thine hand. And Joshua stretched out the spear that he had in his hand toward the city.
Sick.
There's no proof that is the actual origin of the name.
Okay, gotcha.
The peoples who occupied what is now Joshua Tree National Park before the arrival of the colonizers were the Serrano, the Cahuilla, the Mojave, and the Kemehuevi.
Ooh.
They used and continue to use the yucca for its fibers. This is a very fibrous plant, as you've noted.
Yeah.
Good for woven sandals, baskets, ropes. I imagine it's an amazing rope material.
I was going to say, yeah, I could just totally imagine that. I know I've seen like weaved baskets of it before. And they're really beautiful.
Here's a fun one. You take one of the brushes, you kind of chew off the end a little bit, make it really rough.
Yeah.
Did I say take one of the brushes?
You did.
Well, that was a Freudian slip because if you take one of the leaves, chew the end off a little bit, you've got a paintbrush.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Cool.
And how about this, Casey? The Joshua tree is a sewing kit.
Wait, the whole tree.
The whole tree. One leaf and a little strip of bark. So you take your leaf. The end is so pointy. You chop it off. That's your needle.
Oh, yeah.
You use the fibers from the bark as twine.
Okay.
And you've got a sewing kit.
That is incredible.
Pretty amazing.
See, just the use of people whose lives entirely devoted to their environment in this way. Just as they've got such a relationship with all this stuff. It always blows my mind.
It's pretty great, and it's just in vast, stark contrast to how we live today, how you and I live today.
Yeah, exactly.
Casey, the fruit can be eaten raw or cooked. Even the flowers are sweet.
Yeah.
When you can just eat them raw. Like I recently learned that you can eat magnolia flowers. Yeah,
I don't know exactly how, but I know Black Forager did something about that.
She pickled them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, pretty cool. So this was my favorite find as far as the indigenous uses of the yucca more broadly, the Joshua tree more specifically. You take a root, you kind of mash it up, maybe like a mortar and pestle.
Yeah.
And it becomes kind of sudsy.
Okay.
You mix that with water, and that is a good soap and shampoo.
Wow, I've actually had soap when I was down in the Southwest that I got from it was called Yucca soap, but I don't know if it was just used and like scented like Yucca or if it was this kind of exact technique.
I really want to try Yucca shampoo now.
Yeah, that would be sweet. Now, Alex, is there any popular culture references that this tree's ever been made in?
Oh, Casey. Your face. Boy, is there.
Earnestness at its finest, Alex.
The U2 album.
Oh,
The Joshua Tree.
Oh, my goodness.
It featured a photograph of a specific Joshua tree on the back of its art jacket.
Yeah.
That specific tree fell down in 2000.
Oh, it did?
In the year 2000.
That is too much.
The site remains a popular tourist attraction.
That is so funny.
For, a small sect of people, I guess.
Hey, everyone's got to have their mecca that they got to go visit, the tree of U2's Joshua Tree. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. U2 is a band from, is Ireland or Northern Ireland?
They're Irish, yeah.
And so how did Joshua Tree become like the symbol of that album?
Casey, I'm not sure. Do you know?
No, I have no idea. I have another confession.
What?
I've never really listened to Joshua Tree.
Oh.
This album, I think I've listened to it maybe in piecemeal over the years without really knowing it.
Actually, I do recall a bit from the article I read about this. They wanted the album to sound like the desert. They wanted to evoke that sort of feeling. So they sent a photographer to America.
Gotcha.
To travel through the Southwest and take photos of things. And he came back with one of these trees and they loved it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that makes sense then. I get that.
That's like you would have had to really love it to name your entire album about it.
Yeah, I suppose so. And you know what? I think so many people love this tree to that extent.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that one thing that constantly came up when I was driving through the Southwest, driving through this national park, Joshua Tree National Park, the titular national park. It was like it's everywhere. Like it's kind of a similar symbol as the saguaro cactus for a different part of the Southwest. And it's really curious to me that they're just like they've blown up. Not to mention with the new age of living in your truck or your van and going out. Like Joshua Tree is the destination. The
place to do mushrooms.
Yeah,
I've heard.
I suppose. Well, it's just like everyone is always going down there. I'm not a desert person. I'm surrounded with desert people and I love them to death. But I myself am a bigger forest person. Like I want to be in the green, dense, tall growing trees thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm walking down. It's a beautiful place, of course, but I like the reverence that people from up here in the Pacific Northwest, I see like people who are like, I just got to go down there. Some Joshua Tree.
Some people really crave the desert. I like the desert, but I also I come from a long line of British people with weak constitutions.
Like, where's he going with this?
Man, when the heat wave last year nearly fucking killed me.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the desert also gets fucking cold. So I don't know. I might enjoy that part of it.
Yeah. Well, this is curiousness. Now, you know that the desert in particular that we're talking about is the Mojave Desert. You know that?
Yes.
Now, Alex, did you know that there are 3 or 4 other deserts in the western area?
Okay.
Now, none of the things that happen in any one of these individual deserts happens in the other desert, including the Joshua tree and its range. It grows in the Mojave Desert and only in the Mojave Desert.
Endemic.
It is endemic to this one specific desert ecosystem.
How about that?
And it's kind of an interesting thing that this tree and this desert are like inextricably conjoined.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. And the other deserts have other things that are inextricably combined or just unique to them.
Yeah.
And that's I think what we're going to talk about a little bit more today.
Well, let's talk about it, Casey. But first, we got to take a break.
I was ready, Alex.
We'll be right back with more Completely Arbortrary. Welcome back to Completely Arbortrary. Today we're talking the Joshua tree. Casey, I got something to say.
What do you got? What do you got here, Alex?
Do you feel the energy in this episode is a bit like, you know, like teachers after school? All the kids go home. You and I are just like, we should be grading papers.
Oh, yeah, but instead, we're like sitting here and like we pull out our own Capri Suns that we don't share with the kids.
And our orange slices.
Poke holes in there.
It just feels, I don't know. I think this episode feels very casual.
Kind of like a behind the scenes.
Yeah, a little bit. I think a couple things are playing into that. The fact that this is not a tree. And so I feel like, almost feel like it's a Patreon episode. Patreon.com/arbortrary.
Ooh, wait, what can you get there? I'm just kidding.
I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. And the fact that it is an extremely gloomy, drizzly day here in Portland.
Yeah, of which there's been many this year.
Yeah, so it's just a good day to kick back and chat.
Yeah, I think it's true. Did you know about 1 year ago, it was like 118 degrees.
Today.
Mind-blowing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if exactly today, but in this relative time period.
I think 113 was the hottest, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah, so we got... no, I thought it was like 118. Maybe
really?
Was it 113?
Maybe. I don't know.
Too hot. So I'll take this any day.
Yeah, thank you for that perspective. I'm now incredibly grateful for this rain.
There you go. Me too.
Well, Casey, speaking of rain, speaking of the opposite of rain, I'll say.
Thank you. That makes more sense.
The desert, hey, it doesn't rain much there. Let's talk about the desert.
Let's do it.
And its relationship to the Joshua tree and the Joshua tree's relationship to it.
The Joshua tree in the desert.
You can't say I don't make perfect transitions, Casey. Let's move on.
Anyway, the Joshua tree. Now, Alex, the Joshua tree, I said this already, it's endemic to the Mojave Desert.
Yes.
Now, it's not necessarily endemic to like a particular one spot. I'll give you an example. The Port Orford cedar is endemic to like one section of forest in southern Oregon and northern California.
Port Orford?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. The brewer's spruce is another tree. It's just right in that very specific area.
Okay.
Sometimes down in the tropics, there have been places or species that have been endemic to like a hill, which is a mind-blowing thing.
That's insane.
It's absolutely insane. The tropics, I wish that I even had the ability to go into how insane they are. But suffice it to say, this is kind of the opposite of the tropics, but it's not the opposite of the tropics in the sense of biodiversity. Which I think is a really fascinating kind of thing. Spent a lot of time down in these deserts, and in the last, is April, I think, we drove down through Joshua Tree in the Mojave Desert.
Yeah.
We saw the Joshua trees. You could see them from far off. I posted a really cool video. Maybe we'll repost that video. And the Joshua trees only grow between maybe 10 and 40 feet tall. They're not very big, maybe 20 feet spreading out.
Actually bigger than I thought.
Yeah, honestly, you see a picture of it and you're like, it's like I could probably touch like 3/4 of the way up.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not huge, but they grow in these big, vast forests, but they're still spaced apart like maybe 80 or 100 feet. So the forests, again, I think if this is going to be a tree with quotes, it needs to be a forest with quotes.
Okay.
The forest itself is really widely spaced. So you're driving through and you just see like a bop, 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 but like dotted everywhere over the entire place.
So not like tightly packed like our forests here.
No, definitely not. The exact opposite. And they grow in these big, I guess it's just these patches, because then they don't grow where there's just not enough water, where there's already not a lot of water, so they're already really good at living in these dry, arid conditions.
Yeah.
But they don't grow like on the top of certain hills. They only have a certain range in terms of their elevation. And all of these little things end up making these trees only able to grow in this one desert. They need, as we said before, a cold temperature, freezing temperatures. The Mojave Desert routinely has temperatures that are below freezing. And this is really important. A, it helps stimulate the plant, but B, if you go down further south, and further south would take you into the Sonoran Desert. The Sonoran Desert does not have temperatures that are below freezing. They stay above freezing.
So no Joshua trees.
No Joshua trees.
I see.
Exactly. And then if you go too far up in elevation, no Joshua trees. If you go to somewhere that's really low in elevation, you also get no Joshua trees because essentially it's just too dry. The Mojave Desert is a desert that is in the rain shadow of the Sierra Nevada.
Ah.
It has the famous Death Valley National Park. You familiar with this?
Yeah. Hey, for more info on rain shadow effect, time travel a year back to our
Ponderosa Pine.
Ponderosa Pine episode. Yep.
Were you about to say don't tell me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I told you.
Wait, don't tell me.
Oh, I didn't wait, nor did I wait, and I told you. So as it happens, this rain shadow, the Sierra Nevada are really high mountains, especially down here. Some of the White Mountains in that sort of just on the other side. So the way California works is they have what's called transverse ranges, and they have these other mountain ranges that go like north-south. Transverse are usually ones that go east-west, if I recall.
Oh.
So the Sierra Nevada goes all the way down the spine of California. It connects with the Cascades going up in Oregon.
Quickly,
Yes.
I'm reminded of Mordor.
Uh-huh.
What did you call the east-west mountains?
The transverse mountains is my understanding.
Transverse and northwest or north-south are
Those we just have other names for them. They're just mountain ranges.
okay. Mordor is kind of blocked off by two. It's like a box shape of a mountain ranges.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There's like a there's an east-west mountain range to the north and the south, and then it's almost like a natural wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of an interesting geographic. I know it's not real.
Hey, but it is an interesting geographical thing. We know that Tolkien did all the research on this.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he did. Yeah.
Well, so that whole area, the desert, if you go north, where it actually gets really, really cold, where you don't get any Joshua trees.
Are we still talking about Middle Earth?
Yes, we're sorry. We are sorry. We gotta get back to the main thing. You're right. I'm sorry. If you're back on Earth, normal Earth.
Yes.
You're in the Mojave Desert, you go north, that leads you into the Great Basin.
Okay.
And the Great Basin is another big desert. Essentially, imagine the entire state of Nevada. This whole area, the entire basically Intermountain West between the Cascades or the Sierra Nevada and the Rocky Mountains is what we call the Great Basin, and this is kind of south of... not even south, actually, just between those two big things that go all the way up into BC. There's these formations called basin and ranges. Have you heard of this?
Basin and ranges?
Yes.
How are you saying that? That second word?
Ranges is in like range.
Oh,
you have a
and
range.
ranges.
Yes. So
okay.
there's basin and range is the term that they use.
I don't know. I don't think I know what that means specifically.
Well, what it is trying to denote is a landscape that is characterized by having really tall mountains and then really big basins in between.
Oh, okay.
And there's, in this area, in the Great Basin, there's no drainage. All the water that goes into that Great Basin stays in the Great Basin.
Oh.
Then you get lakes like the Great Salt Lake, where it's actually so salty because there's no water that drains out of it. It is literally a gigantic sea. There used to be this entire area when there was more water coming in.
So the Great Basin used to be a giant lake in itself?
Or many gigantic lakes all in itself, correct. So as you go further south into the Mojave Desert, you still get this basin and range, but there's a little bit more drainage that goes into, I think, the Rio Grande as well as the Colorado River. So basically, this desert is unique in that it is in the same basin and range area. So there's these big, tall mountains, like the White Mountains that have the bristlecone pines up to like 13,000 feet.
Yeah.
But then also go down to the very bottom. In that same county, you have the lowest point in North America in Death Valley National Park. So the basin and range difference is really huge. So you go too high up, you go too far down. It's all in the rain shadow, so there's a tiny amount of rain. And then you also get this really cold temperature, and then it goes up to well over the hundreds all the time. So it's kind of this desert that is like really extreme in every regard. But it doesn't have the large growing saguaro cactus, and it doesn't have a bunch of other plants that only grow in the further south or further east area that can only take conditions that say don't go below freezing. So you find that there's these 4 interesting deserts: the Great Basin, the Chihuahuan Desert, the Sonoran Desert, and the Mojave Desert. They're all bordered right next to each other, and you can tell very distinctly where they exist and where they don't exist. So the Sonoran Desert is the one that has the very famous saguaro cactus. That's where they are like most prominent. And I think there's a couple areas where the two kind of overlap, but I would say that the saguaro cactus basically was like, I'm going to be the dominant thing in this habitat. It does not like really low freezing temperatures. So if you go a little bit further north, the thing that takes its place is the Joshua tree. The Joshua tree says, well, I can take freezing temperatures. It actually is something that I have adapted to in order to know when to fruit and when to branch off and that kind of thing. But if you go even further to the east and you go into like West Texas, that starts the Chihuahuan Desert, which has a bunch of different agave and like pinyon pines and mostly just really low growing shrub layers that are really widely spaced. Again, like you can walk through them as if they're hallways between everything, but really they're just widely spaced because I want my roots, Alex, to go over and just barely touch your roots, but I don't want to compete with your roots. I want to make sure that I'm taking all of my water, and I don't want you anywhere near me. But you don't want me near you.
But in a temperate forest, there's enough water where everything can just grow on top of each other.
Yeah, exactly. Or literally on top of each other, you know?
Right.
So that's it's a vastly amazing ecosystem, and I read that these deserts are some of the most intact ecosystems in the entire United States, entire North America, because you can't really grow a lot of food there because they're pretty arid deserts. They can't support the amount of people that would want to live there out in like doing farming and ranching. So they just kind of like slowly become their own big thing. You get this preserve, you get this national park, you get all these other kind of things. It's not to say that isn't, there aren't people living there. There's people that have been living there for, thousands of years. But for whatever reason, we just haven't really gone in and like developed the hell out of them. Maybe like Tucson and Phoenix have like really done some damage to these deserts.
Sure.
But for the most part, they're very intact ecosystems on a large landscape level, which is really curious. But what fascinates me is that if you go back in time, I brought this book up multiple times. It's saber-tooth cats and woolly or giant sloths and saber-toothed cats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The book about megafauna.
Yes, exactly. In the Great Basin specifically.
What episode did we talk about that in?
Ooh, that was...
Sage Orange.
That was it. That was the one. Nice job. I waited. I didn't tell you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
So in this book, they talk about this particular tree because the yuccas and Joshua trees have flowers that are really, really high up.
Yeah.
So they're thinking, well, the only thing that would eat those gonna be these big megafaunas.
Tall ass animal.
Yeah, exactly. So they also had the theory that maybe that is what's keeping the Joshua tree in such a small location. Why doesn't it, even though it potentially could live at a little bit higher elevation, higher latitude, it could live a little bit further south, it could live to the east or the west, just in these individual places. They thought that maybe it was actually moved around by species like giant sloth, who would go up there and be tall enough to just kind of rip one thing down. And you can imagine if you're a yucca and you grow tall and a giant sloth rips one of your branches off, it behooves you to be able to grow a new branch from where that comes. So they started postulating maybe there's all these things that are completely gone in these ecosystems, whether that's megafauna or pure water, where right now it's a desert because of a lack of water. Maybe those mountains weren't there when Joshua Tree first colonized this area, so there was water everywhere. There was a whole ocean inland here where these plants could grow and get a bunch of water. So looking back and trying to like piece together all those things is really fascinating.
I think there's a level of sort of intrigue around the Joshua Tree. It presents itself as sort of like a piece of mythology. Yeah,
which honestly, Alex, when I was going through this, I had fully planned not to give it that credit. It's like, I'm not just gonna be someone who's like, I want to go be a dirtbag and go rock climb and it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go down a Joshua Tree. Like, I've always been like, Joshua trees are stupid. I don't care about them. They're beautiful. I like what they look like. I'm glad they're protected and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I was just like, who cares? They became this weird symbol that everyone latched onto, but they couldn't stand up to, some scrutiny of their symbology.
Yeah, that's actually some research I didn't know I wanted to do. Was like how the Joshua Tree sort of became this pop culture symbol for like going and doing drugs and like finding yourself in the middle of the desert.
See, that's funny that you brought that up, because for me, it's not even doing drugs or anything like that. The most I associate it with is people who are going down to this area to be these, rock climbers, just live in the desert, very like desert solitaire kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I always do. So not necessarily even, I've never even considered that as a part of it. I thought it was just the mystique of being. Are you familiar with the term dirtbag in the colloquial use?
I think so. Just like somebody who lives in a van on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess, maybe you're right. So your research, did it convince you? Or are you like, I need to go down and like find my spiritual Alex in Joshua Tree?
No.
No, I don't play that kind of music.
Casey, I think it's a good time for our review.
Okay.
Of the Joshua Tree.
There's a lot going on here. I'm very torn.
Yeah, I feel like I need to process some things.
Okay. Well, I want to hear that process.
After the death of a family member, I just need some time to process.
Yeah.
Here's how it works. We'll give some final thoughts on this tree. Our last tree for a while. And then give it a rating of 0 to 10 Golden Cones of Honor. Casey, as a resident expert, will begin with you. Okay.
I think this might be one of the most probably picturesque of the yuccas. I am at the National Wildlife Federation's entry on the Joshua Tree. And there's a picture on it, which is just a stunning picture. Unfortunately, they're not letting me actually click on it, but all you got to do is do a quick Google search, and people go down there. The desert is really beautiful in that the colors are like this. Is this pastel? Is that the term I should use?
I don't see the image you're looking at.
You literally just saw
this one here?
All of the pictures of the desert that are really beautiful. Are those pastel colors?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess like desert skies or pastel pinks and blues.
Like the sage green and like the kind of muted reds and
the khaki tan color of the sand.
Yeah. And then the sky is like a opal or a cobalt blue. Right. And that always, like, I have to admit, like, I'm like, those are really good pictures. Like, those make those trees look stunning. That I think is what captivates a lot of people to go down here. Is like just the colors and the weird exposures that you can do to show these trees off. They blow my mind.
Is this the photo here that you're talking about?
It's not quite, no, but it doesn't need to be. They're all the same. Every really good, beautiful, like well-colored photo. There's so many of them because I think it's the trees literally like demand it. I would say.
Yeah.
I have to give them some credit for that. I also kind of got to give the Joshua Tree credit for being a self-made tree. No other yuccas really get up there. Very few things in the agave plants or agave family actually get up there. Now, agaves are like giants in and of their own right. One day we'll probably maybe talk about agave just because they're insane.
Yeah, we'll see.
But my goodness, this tree pulled itself up from its bootstraps and had to contend with ancient giant sloths breaking it apart and eating all of its seeds and all these things. That's pretty cool.
That's a right-wing talking point.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But now you're kind of like, I have to, I don't know. It's always impressive to me when a tree can make it through for no real good reason at all.
Yeah.
And then become a like status symbol. The American beech, or I'm sorry, the European beech, either one. Those are both like, they were symbols for time immemorial.
Yeah.
Like everyone's always loved those trees. The Joshua tree is like, it just is this random thing growing in the desert, and everyone's like, that's going to be my cultural symbol. And I'm like, what? How did you just make that decision? How did it just happen? So anyway, I want to give it credit for being a self-made tree. It did it.
Credit well given.
But at the same time, it also is, I think, it's fine.
It's overplanted, Casey.
I don't know. It might be a little overplanted. It might just be that it doesn't have if you go and you give it a little scrutiny, it's not going to grow more than 40 feet tall. It doesn't create these big forests,
Be honest, and you'll have no problem with this. Do you think you have a little bit of tree bias because it's not a real tree?
Yeah, I probably do.
Which is fine. We all have our biases.
I guess maybe Alex, this is a good time to say this. We've been doing now. This is our third tree, right? Our third tree.
In quotes.
Yes.
Our third non-tree tree.
I think I might have convinced myself over the course of this to basically be like, you know what? I don't care what your silly botanical or anatomical definition is for a tree.
Yeah.
I think I have to be like, you know what? This is more tree than half the things we call tree.
Hang on.
40 feet tall is way taller than like a Japanese maple.
I want to say something about this, but I want you to give your cone score first.
Okay. I might give this a solid 7.8.
Hey, that's great.
I think it's pretty okay.
That's a great score.
I think it's beautiful, but
especially for a non-tree.
I might have to begrudgingly just kind of set that aside from behind and be like, you know what? I'm moving on from my discrimination against secondary growth.
I can't wait to take all this out of context and
Please.
stitch it together and get you canceled.
Oh my God! Thank you, Alex.
Yeah. Okay. 7.8 golden cones of honor for the Joshua tree.
I think I'm gonna do it.
Casey, the thing I said I was going to say.
Yeah.
About your new opinion and congratulations on your personal growth, by the way.
Thank you. I'm really
on
trying.
Your secondary growth.
Oh.
At one point, I said this.
Mm-hmm.
I said I was getting frustrated at you because you were saying that something wasn't a tree, and I was like, it's basically a tree. And you were like, no.
Yeah.
And I was getting mad.
Okay.
Because you were being so snarky about it.
Pedantic, perhaps.
Yes. And I was like, no, it's basically a tree. I'm just going to call it a tree. And you were like, no, I don't think you can call it.
Okay.
So it feels like you have moved more toward the center.
Yes. I think that's fair.
Of calling non-trees trees, which gives me, and because everything's about me, it gives me a little bit of validation.
Okay.
For my opinion, that I guarantee you would have gotten shit if I had said it out loud on the podcast.
Are you about to tell us your opinion now?
No, that was the opinion
okay.
that I'm okay calling non-trees trees.
I gotcha.
As just a broad term.
Okay.
I'm fine calling shrubs bushes. Oh, you won't go with me there.
Yeah, maybe let's take this one step at a time, Alex.
Wow, is it an extremist view?
Sometimes I think you really do try to put that kind of ideology on my shoulders.
All right.
I can't wait to stitch that together.
We've had a lot of words in here that you could edit together to make something nefarious. The Joshua tree, I think, is pretty cool. I love that it is endemic to a small part of the world, and that's the only place you're going to find it.
That's right.
I love any tree that's like that. That's very special. Oh. I love how versatile it is in terms of what you can use it to make. Visually, I think it's just okay.
Yeah.
It's a little, I don't know. It doesn't vibe with my aesthetic.
That's okay. This is fair.
But I do think it deserves a 7.5 Golden Cones of Honor.
A 7.5.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a little bit lower. Yeah. But I think we're on the same page here.
But that feels right to me. And
Yeah.
the 7 range is good, I think.
Honestly,
for this.
yeah, I'd give the Joshua Tree by U2 probably like a 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Have you not heard this album, though?
I don't think so. Like I said, not like I haven't just said press play and then just listen to it all the way through.
You've heard maybe a single or two?
Yeah, I did a reel on Instagram where I used one of their things.
Yes. Where
anyway.
the streets have no name.
Yeah, that's right.
Casey, that was our review of the Joshua Tree. We thank all of you for joining us on this monocotic journey. Back to our regularly scheduled programming next week with an actual tree.
It's gonna be great.
I don't even know what we're covering next week, Casey.
Excellent.
I gotta look at the doc. Casey, it's time for a segment.
Ooh, Alex.
It is officially that time of year, the inaugural time of year for the Tournament of Champion Trees 2022, presented by Arbortrary Media.
Yes! I'm so excited.
It goes Christmas, Tournament of Champion Trees, like Thanksgiving and Halloween. Casey, this is our first ever time doing this. We are doing a tournament of trees, a 16 seedling bracket. We thought we can't just go into this thing with opinions alone.
No.
We have to have some sort of scientific basis for these matchups.
Don't you wish we had that same idea with our podcast?
No way. So we asked our fungal associates to nominate trees that they think deserve to be in the tournament.
That's right.
We got around 40 nominations.
Yeah, just underneath.
Yes. Over 36 nominations, I'll say. And unfortunately, only 16 of those trees could be in the competition.
Yes.
So let's see. Yesterday, on the 15th, the first round of this tournament premiered on Patreon.
That's right.
With our special guest, Tobin Mitnick. You may know him as Jews Love Trees.
Spectacular person.
Wonderful guy.
Best reviewer we could have asked to help us with this journey.
Yeah, the only one.
Yeah.
He did a splendid job. We had a lot of fun, Casey.
We did.
The entire first round, 8 matchups between 16 trees is on the Patreon right now. So if you want to hear that and see where we are in the tournament right now, that's patreon.com/arbitrarypod. You just have to join the Arboretum level. It's $5 a month. You can just pay the $5, listen to it, and quit if you want.
There's a lot of other good stuff on there, so you don't have to.
We also have like 30 bonus episodes up there now. It's kind of it's turning into a great little catalog, Casey.
It really is.
So Casey, we decided to kind of mix some ideas here and give each tree in the tournament 4 attributes.
Yes.
Those attributes are strength, wisdom, power,
correct,
and altruism.
That is right.
So let's describe to the people. What we're going to do for the next few minutes is describe how this tournament works, because you need a fucking PhD to understand what's happening. Casey, let's describe how we came up with these attributes. Okay. They're all 0 to 5 for each tree. So do you want to start with let's start with wisdom. Let's describe how we came up with wisdom.
That sounds great. So wisdom, we said, well, if you are wise, you are an elder, most likely.
Yes,
so,
a box elder.
Exactly, most likely a box elder, which wasn't nominated. So the wisdom rating is one of 2 different things. Either if there is an oldest tree that has been measured, I sought that tree out and I put that in as its number. So let's say, for instance, the bristlecone pine. That was one, that the oldest one, and I just am going with the most obvious one, which is Methuselah. That is 4,865 years old. That number gets added in. And then each other tree, if I couldn't get a certain individual age, then we sought out the maximum age that it would grow.
Right.
Oh, this tree grows to about 130, 140 years. Something like that.
You take 140.
I take 140.
Yeah.
Correct. Then for this one, and then for a few others, what we did is we wanted to put it down between 5. So the maximum, which again is that bristlecone pine, what I did is I made that a 5. Then I took all the rest of the numbers, all the rest of the ages, and I put those as a percentage of the oldest tree. So they're all relative to each other. And then multiplied that percentage by number 5, and then that gives us a number between 0 and 5.
So all of these stats are graded on a curve, basically.
Yes, exactly. The curve being the oldest of each of those categories, or the largest number.
The largest number and the lowest number.
Exactly.
So that's wisdom, is age of tree.
Yes. Now, would you tell us what the strength is, Alex?
I can certainly do my best, Casey. Strength is based on the Yucca hardness of the wood from the tree.
So much fun.
So the Yucca hardness, if you're unfamiliar, as I was until a few days ago, is the pounds of force it takes to put a 0.444 inch steel ball bearing into a piece of wood to half its diameter.
Yes, correct.
So softer woods will have a lower Yucca rating. Harder woods will have a higher Yucca rating.
That's exactly right.
That's strength.
Well done.
That was the best I've done it so far.
That was really incredible. I think you did a great job. Not missed at all.
I'll have edited it out, but I did have to stop for about 10 seconds and think of how I wanted to phrase it. Casey, there is the power, which is
the best one.
AmericanForests.org champion tree rating, which was the seed from which this insane plant we've grown grew.
Yes.
They give a rating based on an equation, which you will tell us now.
I will. It is height in feet plus circumference in inches plus the average crown spread divided by 4. Not everything divided by 4, just the average crown spread divided by 4. Plus the circumference and the height.
Right. So that number that they give to a specimen of each species in the tournament, we took into Casey's same formula to give it 0 through 5.
Yes, correct.
Last, but certainly not least, maybe my favorite category.
Probably the most important one here.
I agree, Casey, is altruism.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us about altruism, Case?
So the way that I defined altruism for what we're doing here today is your and I's rating of the tree, but based on, let's say, its ecological value.
That's right.
Its friendliness, its tastiness, perhaps its curmudgeonness. Is it a tree that grows up alone, grows away from all of its friends, doesn't really give a whole lot back to the ecosystem? It just says, leave me alone.
Or is it a tree that grows a delicious fruit that we humans enjoy, or a seed that birds enjoy, or live among alligators and provide shade, or provide a habitat for moss?
Exactly. Insects of all kinds.
Yes. How much does it give back to the area in which it grows?
Yes. So
that's altruism.
That is. And we took all of those and we added them together to be a number between 0 and 20.
That's right.
And that we called the arbitrary rating.
Yes. So each tree has those 4 attributes plus its arbitrary rating, which is its overall score.
Correct.
So if you're still with us,
which you are, there's so many people with pencils being like, I've been waiting for this. What exactly is going on? We got to know.
So that is our tournament, Casey.
Yes, exactly.
And we have 16 trees competing in the tournament. You nominated them. They're in the tournament, or maybe they're not.
Yep.
And the full first round was done yesterday on our Patreon. It was a lot of fun. I really encourage you to go listen to that if you can.
Follow along, everyone. Next week, we are going to be sharing. We're going to be doing right there, I think live. I think we actually have to go live to the event. It's scheduled for next week. We're going to be doing our second and third round, I believe. No, just
second round next week.
Okay.
The following week will be our semifinals and our final round.
Oh, I'm so excited to figure out what this is going to be.
So tune in to those main lines and check out the Patreon, patreon.com/arbitrarypod to hear the full round 1 with our friend Tobin Mitnick.
Yes, and I should add preliminary rounds. We're not even going to get into it right now.
Please, no. Casey, it's time for a completely arbitrary Q&A.
All right, let's get it done.
This week's question comes from our most regally named fungal associate. You'll remember Chandler Witherington.
Ah, yes.
Chandler writes, hi, Casey and Alex.
Hello.
Hi, Chandler. Your podcast is one of my faves. I laugh out loud every time I listen, and you guys have made me notice and appreciate trees way more than I did before. Hey, that is our mission statement.
That is literally our mission statement. Thank you.
I have a question for you about animals and trees.
Okay.
I was just reading an article about European bison, and it said they strip the bark from trees and eat it. When animals strip bark from trees, does this damage the tree or make it harder for the tree to survive? Thanks for being great. Thank you, Chandler, for being great. Casey,
Exactly.
we talked about European bison in our Two Towers episode.
Yes, we sure did. One of the forest dwellers of that northern forest.
The bee forest.
Bee forest. Honestly, I have the pic. It's burned into my brain, but I can't say it out loud.
It's like Białystok or
yeah,
something.
something like that. I need to have one of my Polish friends explain or say it to me.
Casey, what do you think about this? Is taking the bark off a tree hurt it? I think I know the answer.
What do you think?
I think it's probably a yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes, it exposes the cambium to
Yep.
outside forces, which is the whole point of bark, is to protect the cambium.
That's precisely right. It is very common, though. So a lot of animals would do this. Porcupine over here and grizzly bear. A lot of different animals do it because that layer underneath the bark is really nutritious.
Yummy jelly.
Exactly.
I will say, I think you would probably have to take a lot of bark off a tree to fully kill it.
Yeah. Well, really, all you do is have to take a just one strip around the whole thing.
That's right.
You essentially girdle the tree is the term, where you take you disconnect all the pipes from the top and the bottom. If they can't reconnect, then the tree will die.
Right.
So in this case, with the bison ripping it off, they rip it off in strips. The strip kind of goes up, right?
Oh, yeah.
That would be way more tolerable than if you went all the way around.
Because they can just kind of compartmentalize around that.
Exactly.
And keep chugging.
That's exactly what it does.
Yeah.
Compartmentalizes that section of that wound, and then will make it so that kind of probably puts out a bunch of sap and things like that to make sure that nothing really can get into it. Seal it up as best they can. Because remember, trees don't heal; they seal.
Yes, queen.
There we go. So what you have, I don't know even what that's from, Alex, but I love it.
Oh, it's just the way you said that was
Okay.
very like,
Remember, girl.
empowering.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. All right. So let's see. If you are ripping off that strip of bark and you do it all the way around the tree, you disconnect a certain amount of those pipes that are moving things up and down in that cambial layer. Now, if you do that one time, okay, the tree's probably going to be like, wow, stop. And then it will redirect things and it'll probably be just fine unless it gets some disease that comes in or some insect. We'll assume that's not going to happen.
Okay.
If you just keep on doing that over and over around the tree, you're going to basically put a constriction on what the tree is taking up and taking down. It can only start pushing down everything that it's making through these tiny little strips. Or they can only pull enough water if you rip off what equates to 3/4 of all the bark on that tree, even though it's spread out. You now only have 1/4 of those pipes actively working. So that could actually kill the tree. It's just not getting enough water.
Question.
Go.
When you cut off some pipes, do the other pipes have to work harder, or do they just like keep doing their thing and the tree just gets fewer and fewer nutrients to the top?
They kind of just get fewer and fewer nutrients because they're set literally in wood, so they can't kind of grow bigger or anything like that. So the tree will try to pull up as much water as it can. Maybe that will be because the demand will be higher on certain places. You'll get an intense flow in those areas, or a increase in flow rather.
Yeah. So trees don't have like blood pressure.
Yeah, I don't think so. And if they
just kind
do,
of chug along.
I would be curious to hear more about this because that might actually. I know that trees will certainly expand and contract by the minutest of dimensions,
right,
if they are filled with water versus not.
Oh,
which is
okay.
Really interesting. There's like even things you can measure this with, like the minutest increase in diameter because their cells kind of fill up with water.
You're talking the wood?
The wood, yeah.
Wow.
The whole outer section, because that cambium layer will get just a little bit bigger. So the wood itself may be expanding ever so slightly on the sapwood right on the inside.
Okay.
But generally speaking, it's going to be a very small amount. So if you are a tree and you now have fewer pipes, your pipes will be working as hard as they can, but they can't expand out, forever. So they can't just say, well, just make all your pipes bigger.
Yeah.
It also messes with the pressure and the way that trees move water and things up and down. So if the pipes are too big, then it actually doesn't have enough suction a lot of times. In fact, if you're in a drought-prone area, you want to pull up a lot of water, but you can there's a lot to deal with, and your roots are really low. They actually have really big vessels to pull up a lot of water. But then as soon as it gets up to the higher areas, they actually become smaller so that the water is slowed down and it's put out in certain areas, and everything is kind of metered through the tree.
Now that's a fun fact.
It's very curious. However, people also do this. Historically, native peoples in Vancouver and the Pacific Northwest would take strips off of living trees in order to work with them or do whatever it is that they are using that strip for, probably making baskets and different kinds of textile materials.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to kill the tree, of course. So what they would do is they would strip off bark on maybe 3 or 4 sections of the tree, then go do that to another tree, then another tree. And you can still see those trees where they essentially have 4 big ribs or 5 big ribs of living wood, and they're called culturally altered trees. I know Nerdy About Nature has a really cool video where he talks about this. And so it's a really interesting pattern that you can see with these trees. We do the same thing with cork trees. Cork oak is where we get natural cork from this tree called the cork oak, grows over in the Mediterranean. They strip off the outer bark, but they leave the inner bark, and then we use the outer bark to stop up, whatever it is we're stopping up. However, we're not eating it. We're not getting the nutrients. And with the Native American use here, we're also ripping it off because that under the really fibrous bark and the stuff closest has the certain viability, or it bends and it moves right. But we're not, necessarily scraping off that jelly and eating it. So when the bison does it, when the porcupine does it, it has a huge effect on trees, and it could kill them or it could girdle them and actually cause the tree to 100% die. But when that dies, those trees, and then just move on to the next one, another tree will take its place.
Yeah.
So that's just a part of the natural ecosystem. Whenever an animal's like, well, I really haven't got a lot of nutrients, it's late in the winter or early spring, not enough things have flushed, there's still snow covering everywhere, you'll see a lot more attacks on trees where they'll just rip the bark off and eat that really nutritious cambium layer.
Right on.
So, long story long, yes.
Wow, you said it. Casey. Thank you, Chandler, for your question. If you have a question about trees, email us at arbortrarypod@gmail.com. It's ARBORTRARYPOD.com. Excuse me, at gmail.com.
Wow.
I fucked that up.
That's all right. Edit it in.
If you want to support this podcast and hear, like I said, 30-ish bonus episodes right now, including the Tournament of Champion Trees Round 1 with Tobin Mitnick. Join our Patreon at the $5 tier level, patreon.com/arbitrarypod, or the Cone of the Month Club, and receive a unique die-cut cone sticker illustrated by an independent artist, a different independent artist every month, in your mailbox with an info card, packed lovingly by Casey Clapp.
That's right.
Casey, the tournament begins. And next week, round 2, right here on the Mainline Pod. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We love you a lot. Take care out there. Love each other. Go plant a tree or hug one or do something nice for a friend. How about that, Casey?
That sounds like a great thing.
Am I high roading anybody?
I don't think so. I think
okay.
You're fine. Who would you be high roading? One of those curmudgeons who's just like, I ain't doing anything for a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think so. You're doing fine.
I don't want to alienate those people.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, good. Don't.
The Alexes of the world. Okay. All right. Thanks for listening to everybody to this episode of Completely Arbitrary. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Completely Arbortrary is produced by Alex Crowson and Casey Clapp.
Our artwork is by Jillian Barthold, and our music is by Aves and the Mini Vandals.
And you can support the podcast at patreon.com/arbitrarypod.
And find additional readings at completelyarbitrary.com. Thanks for listening.